Okay, so check this out. You think the royal family is just waving at crowds and cutting ribbons, right? Wrong. It's a viper's nest of old money, tradition, and simmering resentments. And right now, King Charles, yeah, still weird to say that, is dealing with a potential nuclear bomb courtesy of Meghan Markle. I mean, you gotta hand it to her, she knows how to make an entrance, even after she supposedly left the firm. This whole thing started as a whisper. You know how it goes. A little rumor here, a hushed conversation there. But the whisper was that Meghan was cooking up something big, something that could seriously redefine how the public sees the monarchy. And not in a good way, apparently. Harry, bless his heart, is stuck in the middle of all this, like always. He's got loyalty to his wife, obviously, but he also knows what's at stake for his family. So, he does the unthinkable. He goes to his dad, King Charles, and basically says, "Dad, Meghan's planning something and it's gonna blow." Can you imagine being Charles in that moment? You've spent your entire life preparing to be king, dealing with scandals, navigating political minefields. And now, your own son is telling you that your daughter-in-law, the one who already caused a massive rift in the family, is about to drop a truth bomb that could shake the entire institution. The palace, of course, went into full crisis mode. This isn't just about some leaked photos or a messy divorce. This is about trust, betrayal, and the survival of a centuries-old institution. They've seen scandals before, affairs, divorces, but this, a tell-all targeting senior royals, that's next level. Now, nobody really knows exactly what's in this project, as they're calling it. That's the scary part. Is it just Meghan's side of the story? Is it going to expose some deep, dark secrets? Is it going to be a full-on assault on the monarchy? The possibilities are endless, and all of them are bad for the royals. The palace aides, bless their starched collars, started scrambling. They're trying to figure out what Meghan's up to, how much damage it could do, and how to contain it. They're used to dealing with leaks and scandals, but this is different. This is an internal threat, and those are always the hardest to deal with. King Charles is walking a tightrope here. He's got to protect the monarchy, but he also has to consider his family. He can't just come down with the hammer and risk alienating Harry even further. He's got to play this smart, and that means figuring out what Meghan's endgame is. Here's the thing. The monarchy is built on tradition, on ceremony, on unspoken rules. Loyalty is everything. Discretion is paramount, and any breach of trust, especially one that goes public, can have serious repercussions. It's not just a family, it's a symbol, a living embodiment of national history. So, any disruption within the inner circle is going to send shockwaves through society. And Meghan, well, she's always been a disruptor. She came into the royal family with her own ideas, her own ambitions, and she wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo. That's what made her so popular with some people, but it's also what made her a target for the old guard. So, what's Charles gonna do? Does he try to reason with Meghan? Does he try to cut a deal? Or does he go scorched earth and try to silence her? All those options have risks, and the clock is ticking. The palace is basically in lockdown. Every conversation is being monitored. Every meeting is being scrutinized. The aides are whispering. The guards are glancing. And even the paintings on the walls seem to be holding their breath. It's a powder keg, ready to explode. And Meghan Markle is holding the match. Right, part 2 now. Okay, so the palace is in full-blown panic mode, right? They've got this potential Meghan Markle exposé hanging over their heads, and they're scrambling to figure out how to deal with it. But here's the thing. Meghan isn't just sitting around waiting for them to make a move. She's playing her own game, and she's doing it with a quiet determination that's actually kind of impressive. I mean, think about it. She's been painted as this villain, this disruptor, this outsider who came in and shook up the royal family. And maybe there's some truth to that. But she's also a smart, ambitious woman who's not afraid to stand up for herself. And now she's got the royals on the defensive. The palace, of course, is trying to figure out her motives. Is she just trying to get revenge? Is she trying to set the record straight? Is she trying to make a statement about the monarchy itself? They're dissecting every word she's ever said, every action she's ever taken, trying to get a handle on what she's planning. And Harry, poor Harry, is caught in the middle of it all. He's trying to be loyal to his wife, but he also knows the damage that this project could do to his family. So, he's trying to play peacemaker, trying to get Meghan to see reason, trying to reassure his father that things aren't as bad as they seem. But here's the thing, Meghan's not backing down. She's got a story to tell, and she's not going to let the palace silence her. She believes she's been wronged, that she's been unfairly treated, and she's determined to have her voice heard. And that's what makes this whole situation so explosive. It's not just about some leaked secrets or some family drama. It's about power, control, and the right to speak your truth. And in the royal family, those things are always in short supply. The palace is trying to contain the situation, to limit the damage, to control the narrative. They're leaking stories to the press, trying to paint Meghan in a negative light, trying to discredit her before she even says a word. But Meghan's not playing by their rules. She's using her own platform, her own voice, to get her message out. And that's what makes her so dangerous to the monarchy. She's not afraid to challenge the system, to question the traditions, to speak truth to power. And that's something the royals just can't handle. King Charles is in a tough spot. He's got to protect the monarchy, but he also has to consider the human cost. He can't just come down hard on Meghan without risking alienating Harry and further damaging the family's reputation. He's got to find a way to navigate this crisis without causing even more chaos. And that's where it gets really complicated. Because the monarchy is built on secrecy, on tradition, on the idea that the family comes first. But Meghan's not part of that system. She's an outsider, and she's not afraid to break the rules. So, what's the palace going to do? Are they going to try to negotiate with Meghan? Are they going to try to silence her? Or are they going to brace themselves for the storm and hope they can weather it? The answer, of course, is still up in the air. But one thing's for sure. This is a battle for the soul of the monarchy, and the outcome is going to have a lasting impact on the royal family for generations to come. The aides were monitoring every communication, every meeting, every public appearance, trying to anticipate Meghan's next move. They were looking for patterns, for clues, for anything that could give them an edge. But Meghan was always one step ahead. She was communicating with her own network of contacts, building support, gathering information, and preparing to launch her project at the most opportune moment. She wasn't just reacting to the palace. She was proactively shaping the narrative. And that was what scared the royals the most. They weren't used to being outmaneuvered. They were used to controlling the narrative, to dictating the terms of engagement. But Meghan was playing a different game, and she was playing it well. Right, part 3 now? Okay, so the chess pieces are on the board, right? Meghan's making her moves, the palace is scrambling to respond, and King Charles is trying to keep the whole thing from imploding. But here's where it gets really interesting. Just when everyone thinks they know what's going to happen, the game changes. See, the palace had this idea that they could control the narrative, that they could contain Meghan, that they could weather the storm. But Meghan, she's not playing by their rules. She's not interested in compromise. She's got a story to tell, and she's going to tell it, no matter the consequences. And that's what throws the whole palace strategy into chaos. They were expecting a negotiation, a compromise, maybe even a quiet settlement. But Meghan's not interested in any of that. She wants to expose the truth as she sees it, and she's not going to let anyone stop her. So, the palace has to pivot. They have to abandon their carefully laid plans and come up with a new strategy, and fast. And that's where things get really messy. Because the old guard, they want to go scorched earth. They want to silence Meghan, discredit her, and make sure she never speaks out again. But Charles, he's not so sure. He knows that if they go that route, they're going to alienate Harry even further, and they're going to create a public relations disaster that they'll never recover from. He's trying to find a middle ground, a way to protect the monarchy without completely destroying his family. But it's not easy. Because Meghan's not backing down, the old guard's not budging, and Harry's stuck in the middle trying to keep everyone from killing each other. It's a pressure cooker, and the tension is building every single day. And then Boom. It happens. Meghan's project leaks. Not the whole thing, but enough to send shockwaves through the palace and the media. And that's when all hell breaks loose. The palace is scrambling to contain the damage, the media is going crazy, and everyone's picking sides. The old guard, they're furious. They see this as an act of war, and they want to retaliate. But Charles, he's still trying to be the voice of reason. He knows that if they overreact, they're just going to make things worse. But it's hard to stay calm when your family is being torn apart in public. And that's what's happening. The leaks are exposing secrets, revealing tensions, and forcing everyone to take sides. Harry, he's devastated. He feels betrayed by Meghan, but he also feels responsible for the whole mess. He's trying to talk to both sides, trying to get them to see reason, but it's not working. The divide is too deep, the emotions are too raw, and the stakes are too high. So, what happens next? Does Charles finally lose it and come down with the hammer? Does Meghan keep pushing, exposing more and more secrets? Or does Harry somehow manage to pull everyone back from the brink? I honestly don't know. But one thing's for sure, the monarchy will never be the same. Meghan Markle has changed the game, and the royals are going to have to adapt or die. The old ways of secrecy and control are no longer working. The public demands transparency, and they're not afraid to challenge the establishment. And that's the real legacy of this whole thing. It's not just about family drama or leaked secrets. It's about the future of the monarchy and whether it can survive in a world that demands accountability and authenticity. The palace aides, they're working around the clock, trying to manage the fallout. They're crafting statements, spinning narratives, and trying to keep the royals from saying anything that could make things worse. But it's like trying to hold back the tide with a bucket. The story is out there, and it's spreading like wildfire. And in the end, that's what matters. Not the secrets, not the betrayals, but the story. Because the story is what shapes public opinion. And public opinion is what ultimately determines the fate of the monarchy. And right now, the monarchy is losing the story. The communications that seemed innocuous to the casual observer carried layers of meaning. A casual dinner with a powerful media mogul, a seemingly innocent Instagram post with a pointed caption, a strategically timed chance encounter with a sympathetic journalist. Each was a calculated move designed to build momentum for her side of the story. The palace? They were still playing by the old rules. They believed they could control the narrative by controlling the information. They leaked stories to friendly outlets, hoping to discredit Meghan and paint her as a vengeful, fame-hungry troublemaker. But it wasn't working. The public was starting to see through the palace's PR spin. They were tired of the same old song and dance. And Meghan, she wasn't afraid to call them out. She used her own platforms to counter their narratives, to expose their hypocrisy, to speak directly to the people without the filter of the palace press office. It was a brilliant strategy, and it was working. Harry, meanwhile, was a mess. He was torn between his loyalty to his family and his love for his wife. He tried to play peacemaker, to bridge the gap between the palace and Meghan, but it was impossible. The two sides were too far apart, the wounds too deep. The leaks? They were like gasoline on a fire. Excerpts from Meghan's project started appearing online, in newspapers, on TV. Each one was more explosive than the last. Accusations of racism, bullying, and outright cruelty flew. The palace was in damage control mode, but the damage was already done. The old guard, they were calling for war. They wanted to strip Meghan and Harry of their titles, to cut them off from the family, to silence them once and for all. They saw Meghan as an existential threat to the monarchy, and they were willing to do anything to protect the institution. Charles? He was trying to hold things together, to find a way to navigate this crisis without destroying his family. But he was losing control. The situation was spiraling out of control, and he didn't know how to stop it. Look, the thing is, the monarchy is built on a foundation of secrets and lies. It's a system that's designed to protect the privileged and powerful, even if it means sacrificing the truth. And Meghan? She was blowing that system wide open. She wasn't afraid to expose the hypocrisy, the racism, the casual cruelty that were so deeply ingrained in the royal family. She was challenging the entire institution, and she was doing it with a level of skill and determination that the palace simply couldn't match. And that's what made her so dangerous. She wasn't just a disgruntled ex-royal. She was a revolutionary. And she was using her story to challenge the very foundations of the monarchy. The public? They were captivated. They were glued to their screens, watching the drama unfold in real time. Some were sympathetic to Meghan, admiring her courage and her willingness to speak truth to power. Others were loyal to the royals, seeing Meghan as a traitor who was trying to destroy a beloved institution. But one thing was clear: the monarchy was at a crossroads. It could either adapt to the changing times, embrace transparency and accountability, or it could cling to its old ways and risk becoming irrelevant. Charles, he knew that. He understood that the monarchy had to evolve if it was going to survive. But he was also trapped by tradition, by protocol, by the expectations of the old guard. He wanted to modernize the monarchy, but he was afraid of alienating his base. And that's what made his position so difficult. He was caught between two worlds, between the old and the new, between tradition and progress. He had to find a way to bridge the gap, to modernize the monarchy without destroying its foundations. But time was running out. Meghan's project was gaining momentum, the leaks were becoming more frequent, and the public was growing increasingly restless. Charles had to act, and he had to act fast. The question was, what was he going to do? Was he going to side with the old guard and try to silence Meghan? Or was he going to embrace change and try to find a way to move forward? The answer, of course, was still unknown. But one thing was certain. Whatever he decided, it was going to change the course of history. The monarchy was at a tipping point, and the next few weeks were going to determine its fate. And Meghan? She wasn't going anywhere. She was ready for war, and she was determined to win. The game was on, and the stakes were higher than ever. Okay, so the palace is spinning, right? They're trying to say the leaks are taken out of context, that Meghan's got an axe to grind, that she's exaggerating everything. But the thing is, even if half of what's getting out there is true, it's still pretty damning. Like, we're talking about accusations of casual racism within the family, of Meghan being bullied and isolated, of her mental health being completely disregarded. That's not just some minor disagreement. That's some serious stuff. And the public, they're eating it up. They're finally getting a glimpse behind the curtain, seeing the royal family for what it really is, a bunch of privileged, out-of-touch elites who are more concerned with maintaining their image than with treating people with basic human decency. Charles, he's trying to walk this tightrope, but it's getting harder and harder. He's trying to appease the old guard, who want to shut Meghan down, but he also knows that he can't completely alienate Harry. And he's also got to worry about his own reputation, which is taking a serious hit with every new leak. Harry, man, I feel for the guy. He's stuck between a rock and a hard place. He loves his wife, but he also loves his family, and he's watching them tear each other apart. He probably feels like he's the only one who can see both sides, but nobody's listening to him. Meghan, she's not backing down. She's got the bit between her teeth, and she's going for it. She's not afraid to take on the entire royal family, and she's not going to stop until she feels like she's been heard. The thing that's wild is how tone-deaf the palace is being. They're still trying to play the game by the old rules, leaking stories to friendly outlets, trying to discredit Meghan, but it's not working. The public just doesn't trust them anymore. And Meghan, she's using that to her advantage. She's speaking directly to the people, using social media, giving interviews, telling her story in her own words. She's cutting out the middleman, and it's driving the palace crazy. The old guard, they're losing their minds. They see Meghan as an existential threat to the monarchy, and they're willing to do anything to stop her. They're whispering about stripping her and Harry of their titles, cutting them off financially, even trying to get them deported. It's insane. Charles, he's trying to keep them in check, but it's not easy. They've got a lot of power, a lot of influence, and they're not afraid to use it. He's basically got a civil war brewing within his own family, and he's got to figure out how to put it out before it destroys everything. The leaks, they're getting more and more damaging. We're talking about private emails, recorded conversations, even alleged financial improprieties. It's like a bomb going off every single day. And the public, they're riveted. They're taking sides, debating the issues, and demanding answers. The monarchy is under more scrutiny than it's ever been, and it's not handling it well. Harry, he's trying to mediate, but it's a lost cause. The two sides are too entrenched, the emotions are too raw, and the stakes are too high. He's basically watching his family self-destruct, and he's powerless to stop it. Meghan, she's not backing down. She's got a mission, and she's going to see it through, no matter the cost. She believes she's fighting for the truth, for justice, and for a better future. And she's not afraid to make enemies along the way. So, what happens next? Does Charles finally crack and side with the old guard? Does Meghan keep pushing until the monarchy collapses? Or does something completely unexpected happen? Honestly, at this point, anything is possible. The one thing I know for sure is that the monarchy is at a turning point. It can either adapt to the changing times or it can fade into irrelevance. And Meghan Markle is the catalyst that's forcing it to make that choice. The